Hi guys, this is Sadik from Rudin.com, and in this video, we'll show you various ways through which you could flash a custom kernel on your Android phone. So please take a backup of all the data on your phone and let's get started. Okay, apart from that, you will also have to take a backup of the stock boot.img file. This is because the kernel is flashed in the boot partition, and if something goes wrong during flashing, then it will make the boot partition corrupt and your phone will not boot to the OS. So please back up the boot partition. For that, you will have to first verify the firmware which is installed onto your phone. So for that, go to the settings about phone and have a look at the build number or version number. In my case, this is the build number, so you have to get hold of the same firmware. So in my case, as you could see, this is the same firmware which is installed onto my phone, and now from there you have to copy the boot.img file, and this will act as a backup for the boot partition. In case something goes wrong during the flashing of the kernel, then you could simply flash the stock boot.img file and your phone will be back up and running. So please keep this point in mind. And now that we have the backup of the stock boot.img file as well, let's move ahead. So first off, there are a few requirements that we have to check mark. In this regard, your first course of action is to get hold of the kernel of your choice. In my case, I'm using a kernel that supports the KernelSU as well, but it's completely optional. Even if your kernel does not support the KernelSU, it's not a cause of concern. I am simply using a kernel which supports KernelSU because at the end of the video, I'll show you that I have flashed the kernel successfully, and for that I'll have to install the KernelSU app, and that is why I'm using a kernel which supports the SU. But even if your kernel does not support the SU, it's not a cause of concern. So with that said, get hold of a custom kernel. Once that is done, you will now have to get hold of the Android SDK platform tools from my guide and extract them onto your PC. You may extract them anywhere you want. In my case, I've done so in C drive, and as you could see, these are the files of platform tools. Once that is done, you will now have to enable USB debugging and OEM unlocking. So let's enable both the toggles as well. So go to the settings menu, then go to about phone and tap on build number 7 times. In case of Xiaomi, you have to tap on OS versions. Now go back, go to system, developer options, and turn on the toggle next to OEM unlocking as well as USB debugging. You will get a prompt, tap on OK. You might get one more prompt, so again tap on allow. And with this, the debugging is now enabled. Let's verify the same. So go to the address bar of platform tools, type in CMD, hit enter. This will launch the command prompt inside the platform tools directory. Now type in ADB devices and verify that you are getting an ID. If you are not getting any ID, then unplug and replug your phone from the PC. Disable and re-enable USB debugging. Tap on revoke USB debugging. Use the official USB cable that came with your phone and use the USB 2.0 port on your PC. So carry out these USB fixes and verify that you are getting an ID. Once you get in this ID, you will now have to unlock the bootloader on your phone. Do note that unlocking will wipe off all the data and it might make the warranty null and void as well. If that's well and good, you could refer to a guide and the video and get this job done. In short, simply boot the phone to the Fastboot mode, then use the Fastboot flashing unlock command. You will now get a prompt on your phone. So use the volume key to highlight, unlock the bootloader and press the power key to confirm. With this, the bootloader will be unlocked and your phone will boot to the OS. So now you have to make sure to re-enable the USB debugging on your phone. Once that is done, let's now move ahead. So now you will have to boot the phone to the Fastboot mode. For that, just type in ADB reboot bootloader and hit enter, and your phone should now reboot into Fastboot mode in a few seconds. Once that happens, type in the command of Fastboot devices and verify that you are getting an ID. So just wait for a few more seconds and our phone is now in the Fastboot mode. And as you could see, we are now having this ID. So if you are not having any ID, then please install the Fastboot drivers onto your PC using our guide. And once you have installed the drivers, also do one more thing. Use the Windows plus X shortcut keys, choose device manager, then expand the Android phone section and verify that your phone is being shown here as Android bootloader interface. So once that is done, let's now move ahead with the next step. So now there are 3 ways of flashing a custom kernel. First one, using the Fastboot command, is the most easiest and straightforward approach. Second one is using a custom recovery. And the third one is using a third-party app which requires root as well. So I'll show you all these 3 methods. First off, let's do so via the Fastboot command. So transfer the custom kernel from onto your platform tools folder. So as you could see, this is the custom kernel. Let's transfer it here. For the ease of convenience, let's rename it to something shorter. So let's rename it to kernel, and the complete name becomes kernel.img. Once that is done, you will now use the command fastboot flash, partition name which is boot, file name which is kernel.img, hit enter, and it's now flashed onto your phone. Once that is done, type in fastboot reboot, and since I flashed a kernel which supports the KernelSU as well, so I could simply install the KernelSU app and verify if the kernel has been flashed or not. So for that, you may use the official GitHub link of KernelSU. So go there and after that install the APK file. So hit the show all asset button, then scroll down and choose the KernelSU APK, which should be somewhat here. This is the APK file. So get hold of this APK and install the APK onto your phone, and then we'll verify if the kernel has been flashed or not. So just do keep in mind that this will only happen if you have flashed a kernel which supports the KernelSU. In case your kernel does not support the KernelSU, then this APK will not do anything whatsoever. So keep this point in mind. With that said, let me now install the KernelSU APK as well, which is this one. Install, and now open the app, and as you could see, it's now working in the GKI mode. So with this, we have flashed the kernel using the Fastboot command, and now I'll show you how to get this job done using the custom recovery. But first, let me remove the custom kernel on my phone. For that, I have to boot my phone to the Fastboot mode once again, and then I have to flash the stock boot img file. This will remove the custom kernel and replace it with the stock kernel. So first off, this is the firmware which is installed onto my phone, and copy the boot img file, transfer the file inside the platform tools directory, paste it over here. Now type in the command fastboot flash boot boot.img, and the custom kernel is now replaced by the stock kernel, and now you may reboot the phone to the OS. And I will then show you that we have removed the custom kernel from our phone using the app, and once the kernel has been removed, we could then flash the custom kernel using the custom recovery of our choice. So just give me a few more seconds, and then I'll show you that as well. So during this time, sometimes the phone might take a little bit longer to boot up. This is all normal and nothing to worry about. So with that said, our phone should now boot to the OS in a few more seconds. And with this, we are now inside the OS, and now let me launch the KernelSU app, which should be somewhat here. Let me drag the app over to the home screen as well. So I already have the app over here. So now launch the KernelSU app, and as you could see, I have now removed the custom kernel, and we are now in the stock kernel. So now I'll show you how to flash the custom kernel using the custom recovery of our choice. So for this, I'm using an Orange Fox recovery. You may use TWRP, Orange Fox, or Pitch Black. Okay, regarding the flashing of the custom kernel, just give me a second. I'll have to show you one more guide. Install TWRP recovery on Android. So first off, go through this guide and use this set of command and verify if your phone has a recovery partition or not. So the commands are as follows. These are the three commands. If your phone has a recovery partition, then that's quite easy. You just have to use the command of Fastboot flash recovery and flash the recovery onto your phone. Something along the following line. Let me just show you. Just give me a second. The command will be Fastboot flash partition name, which is recovery, file name, let's say recovery.img. Since your phone has a recovery partition, you may use this recovery slot to get the job done. But in case your phone does not have a recovery partition, for example, this is the case where if there is no recovery partition, then in that case, you have to use the boot command, Fastboot boot recovery. Your phone will now boot to the recovery for one-time usage. After that, you may go to install and flash the recovery zip file, or you may also use the flash current TWRP file. Let me show you both the methods. So this is for those who have a recovery slot, but if there is no recovery slot, then use the Fastboot boot command and either flash the recovery zip file using this, as you could see, the recovery zip file, or you may do one more thing. Go to advanced, and from the advanced you have to choose flash current recovery, and the file will flash onto your phone as well. So I will link this guide as well. You may refer to my guide and get the job done. So with that said, let's now flash the recovery file onto our phone. For now, I'm using the Orange Fox recovery. So just give me a second. It should be somewhat here. This is the Orange Fox recovery. This is the recovery img file. Transfer the recovery img file inside the platform tools folder, and now boot the phone to the Fastboot mode. For Fastboot mode, type in ADB reboot bootloader, hit enter, and your phone should now reboot into the Fastboot mode. Just give it a few more seconds, and once it's in the Fastboot mode, you have to flash the recovery depending on if your phone has a recovery slot or not. In my case, my phone has a recovery slot, so I will use the command Fastboot flash partition name, which is recovery, file name, which is recovery.img, hit enter, and the recovery file will now be flashed onto my phone in a few more seconds. Once that happens, type in Fastboot reboot recovery, and your phone will now reboot to the newly flashed recovery. This will take around 4 to 5 seconds at the very max, depending on the recovery which you have flashed. And if your phone does not have a recovery, then you have to use the Fastboot boot command, and after using the boot command, your phone will automatically boot to the recovery. No need for this command, but since we have flashed the recovery, so we have to manually reboot to the recovery mode, and we are now inside the recovery, and we could now flash the custom kernel as well in a few seconds. Just let me show you how. So once the phone is in the recovery mode, simply choose the recovery, the custom kernel, and choose the boot partition, because you have to flash the recovery in the boot partition. and swipe to flash. The custom kernel is now flashed in just around 2 seconds. Now tap on reboot system. Your phone will now boot to the OS, and with this we should now have the custom kernel onto our phone. We will once again verify it using the KernelSU. So again, I'm repeating, you could only verify it if the custom kernel support the KernelSU, or else you will not be able to verify that. But it's not a cause of concern because we have flashed the kernel. So with that said, let's wait for around 4 to 5 seconds, and then I will launch the app and verify the result as well. So it should now boot to the OS in a few more seconds, and then we will have a look at the result as well. So let me now unlock my phone and launch the KernelSU app, and as you could see, the custom kernel has been flashed by the recovery mode as well. And now I'll show you the third method using which you could flash the kernel onto your phone. So in this we will use a third-party app, but this third-party app requires root. So there is quite an important point to keep in note. If you are using or flashing a custom kernel that supports the KernelSU as well, then in that case you will have root via two apps, the KernelSU and Magisk, which might lead to few issues. So after flashing the custom kernel, the Magisk root will automatically be gone from your phone. But if you are using a custom kernel which does not have the KernelSU, then the Magisk root will remain on your phone. So again, I'm repeating, initially we have to obtain root via the Magisk or Apache, and once you have obtained root via Magisk or Apache, you could then flash the custom kernel using the kernel flasher app. But after that, if your custom kernel has the KernelSU as well, then your phone will be having root via the KernelSU and Magisk, which might lead to a few issues. So the phone will automatically remove the root from Magisk, but only this will happen if your custom kernel has a KernelSU. If the custom kernel does not have the KernelSU, then the Magisk root will remain onto your phone. In my case, I'm having a custom kernel which has a KernelSU as well. So after having the KernelSU installed onto my phone, the Magisk root will gone in my case. So with that said, first and foremost, you have to obtain root on your phone. So there are two approaches. Either you could patch and flash the stock boot img file, boot or the initboot file via Magisk, and then flash the file via Fastboot command. But that will take quite a lot of time. Since we have flashed a custom recovery as well, I'll be using this approach. Simply you have to flash the Magisk zip file onto your phone, and your task stands complete. If you want to use the boot or the initboot approach, you could have a look at my article as well. But for now, I'm using the recovery method. So simply boot your phone to the recovery. This time around, type in adb reboot recovery, hit enter. Your phone should now reboot to the recovery which you have just flashed. In my case, I flashed the orange fox recovery. And once that is done, you could now get hold of the Magisk zip file or the APK file from my guide and transfer the file onto your phone. You could now easily flash the Magisk APK file as well. No need to convert the Magisk APK to Magisk zip. That is not required. You could simply install the Magisk APK as well. So now that we are inside the recovery, we will first flash the Magisk APK file, then reboot to the OS, and then install the Magisk APK once again. So just give me around 4 to 5 seconds, and the phone should now boot to the OS. Now we are inside the recovery, and now choose the Magisk APK file. So I have to flash. The APK will now be flashed onto our phone, but the Magisk has been installed in the backend only. In the front end, we don't have Magisk, so after that, you'll have to install Magisk APK as well. First off, tap the reboot system, and then you have to install the Magisk APK in the front end as well. And after that, Magisk will ask you to do a direct install. This happens quite a lot of times, so it's not a cause of concern. Simply manually do a direct install, and then only the Magisk will be installed. The entire process takes around a couple of minutes at the very max, and this is only required for the first time. So wait for a few more seconds, and then you have to install the Magisk APK in the front end as well. And after that, you could do a direct install, and then only the task stands complete. So now our phone is in the OS. Wait for a few seconds, and now install the Magisk APK file as well. This is over here. Install it. Wait for a few more seconds as well, and tap on install. Once that is done, let's first verify. So if you're getting this icon, you will have to wait for a few more seconds, and then once again install the Magisk app onto your phone, so that you are now getting the update option. So now tap on update, and now you will get the Magisk icon. As you could see, it's now the Magisk icon. Open it, tap on OK, choose direct install. Let's go. And now Magisk will patch and flash the boot img file or the initboot, and now tap on reboot. And with this, we have now obtained root. There is nothing else left to do. And now that you have obtained root, you may now flash the kernel flasher app onto your phone. So while the phone is booting up, you may go to my guide and get hold of the kernel flasher app from its GitHub page. So go there and don't download this one. Instead, get hold of the alpha build, which is over here. It's somewhat stable as compared to the above one. So download the kernel flasher alpha build, and once you have got the APK, transfer the app onto your phone, and then you have to install the app onto your phone as well. So just wait for a few more seconds, and we could then install the app as well. So it's now booted to the OS, and let's install the Kernel Flasher app onto our phone. So go to storage, Kernel Flasher is this one, tap on install, launch the app, and now you will get a SU prompt. Tap on grant, and with this we have installed the Kernel Flasher app. Now verify the current active slot. In my case it's slot A, so tap on view next to slot A, and after that tap on flash, choose the flash partition image, choose the boot partition, and then choose the custom kernel. It will now be flash. Tap on reboot, again tap on reboot, and the phone will now boot to the OS. And with this we now have the custom kernel installed using a third-party app. But since the custom kernel which I had used also had a KernelSU, so it will automatically remove the Magis root from my phone, and I will only have the root by the KernelSU. But if your kernel does not have the KernelSU, then the Magis root will remain on your phone. So in short, your phone will only have one root at a time. If your kernel have a KernelSU, then the Magis will be gone. If your kernel does not have the KernelSU, then the Magis root will be there on your phone. So with that said, let's wait for the phone to boot to the OS, and after that we will then have a look at the result as well. So let's launch the KernelSU app, and as you could see, I have now obtained root. The custom kernel has been flashed, and since I was using a KernelSU, so my phone is also obtained root. So now if I launch the Magis app, as you could see, the root has been gone, and now you could simply remove the Magis app as well from your phone. It's no longer required because it's already obtained root via the KernelSU. So guys, these were the 3 different approaches of flashing the custom kernel. The easiest one is using the Fastboot command, but you could also use a custom recovery. In that you have to simply install the kernel img file in the boot partition. Then you also have a Kernel Flasher app using which you could flash the app. If your phone is already obtained root via Magis or APatch, then you could use this approach as well. So on that note, I round up this video. If you have any query with regard to any of the steps, do let me know in the comment section, and thanks a lot for watching.